Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of the Brunton Bugle. This is just a little disclaimer I'm putting up before the episode. So, as you will probably all be aware by now, this weekend's game at Cheltenham Town has been postponed due to the icy weather. The pitch is not in good enough condition to play. Obviously, at the time of recording, we didn't know that. So there is a section that is a Cheltenham preview in this episode. What I've done is I've removed that. So what you'll find is when you get to the point when the Cheltenham preview is about to start, it'll fade out. But then it'll fade quickly back in time for you to hear the answer to Dan's question of the week. And it's a belting question of the week, so it's well worth taking part in. And that's just a little disclaimer to let you know that it's not your episode going a bit funny. I've done that for that reason. So, we'll be back next week with a preview of the Bolton game. And obviously, there's not much to review this week. We'll try and find something to fit in at the start of the episode. But yeah, so other than that, enjoy.
Hi, I'm Paul Simpson from the Football Club. Welcome to the Brunton Bugle.
We come blue and white and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Mike Booth.
2 defeats in a row for United leave them cut adrift from safety. But was there promising signs in the midweek trip to Barnsley? We look back on the losses against Oxford and the Tykes before previewing a huge 6-point this weekend at Cheltenham Town.
There's a kneel with a pass so true to Boulder Stone and Clark's in view. There's a cross and a run, the old one too.
Yeah, you know what, Mike? I hadn't actually looked at the table until just before we recorded here, and it doesn't make great reading right now, does it?
No. I've already heard sort of people talking about how many points we'll need to get to the sort of sacred 50-point mark. The way I see it, I think the way other teams are doing around us, 2 wins could get us out of it, and then it's go from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not great. But like you said in the intro, there's maybe some positives. I think 100% we have a stronger squad now than we did on the 1st of January.
Yeah.
So hopefully with a few more recruits still to come in, then we can really kick on. And I mean, if we pull it off, I think the momentum that'll generate for us will be fantastic.
Yeah, and we definitely need at least one more forward, which we'll touch on in a minute, because there's been a departure announced from Brunton Park today. Before we go any further, obviously we've got to remind you, once again this season, our sponsors are the Carlisle United Sport Club London Branch. London Branch do sort of lots of fantastic stuff for the club in terms of fundraising, but also for exiles in terms of arranging train tickets for away trips and tickets for the actual match and sorting out designated pubs and stuff like that. You can join them wherever you are in the world. I know there's a huge influx of kiosk members at the very least at the moment for the Jacksonville area in Florida. So if they want to sign up to the London branch, well, I'm sure they're very welcome to. But yeah, if you want to find out more about them, go to the website carlisle.londonbranch.org. Right, Mike, let's get right into it. We're probably not going to have a full sort of longer episode as we have done in some of the previous ones because you've got to get away today. We're recording a little bit late. So news-wise, I mean, there's only one real big bit of news that's come out really in the last week, isn't there? And that's it's a departure from Brunton Park, but it's one that's sort of been rumoured for a little while. Ryan Edmondson has left the club by mutual consent. He's had his contract cancelled, and the understanding is he's going to Australia because he's got an opportunity to play for the Central Coast Mariners out there. And I think the coach there is one of his ex-Leeds youth coaches. In one sense, a bit of a surprise because the rumour had been going on for so long. You thought, oh, maybe it's a load of nonsense. It can't be true. But as it is, it turns out that it is true. I know there was a mad rumour going around that he was quitting football to go and set up a beach cafe in Australia, which I always thought like, oh, come on, that's just silly. But actually, I mean, obviously, as we said on one of the previous episodes, look, Central Coast Mariners, their ground is right by the beach. So that might be where that's come from. But what's your thoughts on this one? I mean, Simo seems a little bit narked, as if like he's only really found out in the last week, and which seems unusual, seeing as the rumour was flying around, and there was a lot of, there were some pictures that emerged of him moving out of his flat, I think. Wait, I think in Dalston, maybe he was living or something like that. So it's kind of, it feels a bit like, I don't know, I saw someone describe the way Simo was describing it quite amusingly, like the man whose wife has left him for the fitness instructor or something like that, isn't it? But it's, why the hell would he want to go all the way to, Australia and earn a few, couple £1,000 a week to sit on the beach every day? Why would he when he could be up in Carlisle? But what's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought that this season he'd be quite a big player for us.
I think we all did. We all predicted him top scorer.
Yeah, well, you and Dan did. I
did.
predicted Sean Maguire in my infinite wisdom, which wasn't much better. But yeah, I really thought that this would be a really great season for him. But I think he's at the point now where, to be honest, it's probably best for us that he moves on. It's best for him that he moves on. And, he may well sort of do what Macaulay Gillespie did, where he sort of goes over there, has a good couple of years sitting on the beach as well, and comes back sort of at a higher standard in the Football League.
Absolutely. I think you've got it bang on there. I think it's easy to look at him and go, it's a step down or whatever. Look, it's more like a step sideways, really, isn't it? Because you're basically getting a better quality of life probably living out there, you'd think. So he's going to go out there, live in the sun for most of the year. It's going to be great for him in that sense. And he's a chance to rebuild his career a little bit because he'd lost his way with us. I think I don't think there's much doubt with that. There's a question of whether he actually did find his way in the first place. There was those promising signs last season in the odd game, and he showed a lot of promise, but never quite hit those heights. And we were always just constantly willing him on to be better. And clearly he hadn't shown enough in training to Simo to justify being ahead of some players who weren't doing that well, to be honest, with the team. And yet they were getting in there ahead of him. So yeah, you do wonder what went wrong there, really. But there's a lot of talk of a lack of discipline in the summer in terms of being late for team meetings, and that's obviously going to wind up a manager like Simo, isn't it? So yeah, you do wonder with that. And obviously they're missing that penalty against Harrogate. I think if he scores that penalty, he sees might kick on, and you see a different Ryan Edmondson. But as it is, that shoulder injury at Northampton really killed him last season, didn't it? And actually the red card against Leyton Orient as well, when you look back to it. So
yeah,
it's been a tough year for him. But hey, we'll always have memories of that goal at Swindon, won't we?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was a fantastic moment, that was. So yeah, all the best to Ryan, in his future career, obviously out in Australia. I'm sure he's going to have a great time out there. And yeah, he's one of those ones that I always look at the Macaulay Gillespie one, and I always think to myself, one that got away of we really should have done a bit more to try and make him fit into our team, because he was always a quality player. And I kind of hope we don't do the same with Edmo. I think it'll be a little bit different now because of the budget we're working with in terms of signing players. But yeah, I mean, in terms of that replacement wise, we've been heavily linked with Jake Young. Been a bit of a back and forth about that, hasn't there, with Bradford? Obviously, Simo made some comments after the Barnsley game saying it was a ridiculous price and he was out of our price range. I don't think that's necessarily having a go at Bradford. I think it was just basically being honest and saying, look, what they're asking for him, we're not going to pay that, so that we move on. Graham Alexander hasn't taken very well to it. I can totally understand why he's a bit narked of it, because I was a little bit surprised Simo mentioned it's not normally what he does, is it? But I think he was asked that question directly, wasn't he? But yeah. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Am I disappointed that we're potentially missing out on Young? Not massively. I've got a real fear with Young that he could be like one of these half-season wonders who's, had this brilliant first half season and then goes back to Bradford and actually doesn't do that well. He might well keep up his form and keep going, but I just have this feeling, is he quite as good? Armstrong's different, and Armstrong's proved it over like 2 or 3 seasons with Harrogate, and actually a couple of seasons before that in lower levels. So you see a bit more of him, whereas Young I was never really convinced about. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because a few people were saying, "Oh, we don't need a striker; we need a creative midfielder to take chances." But obviously, we'll touch on the Barnsley game in a bit. But we've been creating chances. We just need somebody to put them in the back of the net. And yeah, I get what you're saying, that he might be a sort of a bit of a flash in the pan, Young. But we're not going to sign someone who's scored 20 goals the past 4 seasons on the bounce, are we?
No, absolutely not. I get that. I do understand that. But it's just, it's one of those ones I look and think, am I as fussed about missing out on him? Probably not. And that is not disparaging him and saying he's a bad player. I just wonder if it would have been, for the amount that Bradford would want, it would have been a huge gamble, I think, to try and sign him permanently. But there you go. Right. Well, let's move on then, Mike. Is there anything else to touch on in terms of I suppose we should mention we tried to record a preview for the Oxford game, but we had some real technical issues, so we've moved back to our old studio just to give that a try, and it seems to be working fine so far, doesn't it? So yeah, we can't see each other, but that's probably a good thing, because I'm pretty sure Mike is not fully clothed right now. But yeah. Yeah, we mentioned this when we recorded, but we'll touch on it briefly again. The incident at the Oxford game, because we're going to talk about the Oxford game in a sec. Yeah. So there was an incident where a fan has been arrested due to basically an incident to racism towards the assistant referee after they seem to think it happened after the second goal, which we'll obviously talk about the second goal a bit, but not relevant to this. just hugely disappointing, isn't it? And because these incidents seem to be happening on a weekly basis, and it's just getting really, really frustrating at the moment, isn't it? In terms of one thing after another.
Yeah, and we seem to be getting a bit of a reputation for this now. Like, I've seen other clubs' fans are replying to the posts on social media saying, "Oh, typical Carlisle fans, they're all scum and all the rest of it." And to be honest, you can't really argue with them. These incidents keep happening. It's embarrassing.
Tarnishing the reputation,
really
isn't it? It's really tarnishing the reputation, and it's easy for us to I've seen some people like blaming it. Oh, it's just like. It's just a lot of 16-year-old kids or 14-year-old kids in the Warwick Road and or it's new people who've come along and not been for years. You don't know that. We don't know. We have no idea of that. It's a very easy thing to say. But I'll be honest with you, I've heard a few little things said before in the past. And I probably should have reported them, I'm being brutally honest. But I've heard things said in the past that, frankly, shouldn't be said at a football ground. And they're from people who've been there for years as well. So, let's not pretend that this doesn't happen at Brunton Park. I mean, I've seen some posts on some message boards recently and things about stuff like this, and frankly, it's absolutely appalling what some people have been saying. I mean, we all know who I'm talking about, and we're not going to go into more detail in it, but let's just leave it at that. It's just not called for, and I applaud the club and the police though for dealing with it incredibly quickly. It's
definitely.
Within a day, there was an arrest made, and it's all. Seems to hopefully be getting sorted, and we might not find out the full story eventually. I don't know, but at least there seems to be some work going on with that, so that's good. Yeah,
definitely.
Right, okay, let's take a. Let's not take a break. Let's get straight into it. Sorry, Oxford United. Well, sorry, Carlisle United 1, Oxford United 3. Get it the right way around. Mike. This we went to both the games over this week, didn't we? And this one. It's just so deflated that once again we had a good start without really creating anything solid, and then we gift a goal. We just don't seem to be able to get that opening goal at times, do we? To get ourselves into games. I know we'll talk about the Barnsley game in a minute. Well, we did, but that was a different game altogether, really. So this one. What's your initial thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, the corner for their first was never a corner in a million years, was it?
It's not.
And
ridiculous decision.
Obviously, our players were a bit frustrated, but you've got to get your heads back in the game, and letting the lad into the box have that much space to head the ball back into the 6-yard box. It's frankly, you deserve to concede goals if you're going to give people that much space on set pieces. And the second goal, at the time we thought it was miles offside. On second, third, and fourth viewings, where you draw lines,
Well, the key thing with that one was when you look at the original clip with just Lavelle in shot, you look and think, oh, he's offside. He's the whole the top half of his body is offside. He's well beyond Lavelle. Not really a tough decision to make. Then there's a clip that comes, I think, like one frame after, where you suddenly see some feet at the very top of the screen, and you're like, those feet are coming towards the halfway line as well, so they've been deeper on the original pass, and you're like, oh, that person's probably playing him on. And we think it's Jack Ellis on the very far side, and it is very much the far side, so it is frustrating one, and I think in the end the linesman's probably got it right. Naked eye originally you think, he looks like he is, but frustrating, and then the third goal, great finish though, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the third goal was genuine quality, and that's what we've been coming up against all season. But before the first goal, I took my mate Neil, who's a Sunderland fan who comes to a couple of games a season, and he was saying this is not a 6th versus 22nd match or 23rd match. This is quite an evenly matched game, but so often we just switch off, concede a stupid goal, and then it's an uphill battle trying to get back into it. It's literally the story of our season. We could do a post-match analysis of a game before the game's even happened, because it's just so predictable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It just infuriating, isn't it? Like I said, I mean, we started off fairly well with some nice little moves from Butterworth, especially down the left, and Armstrong, was doing some decent pressing, and Harrison Neal certainly impressed, didn't he? I think we were all quite, we've got a player here, like, you could really do something. But then, like you said, that first goal, so obviously, we talked about set piece. It wasn't a set piece. It wasn't a corner. We know that. But it's letting the biggest lad in the thing, like, just not doing your job properly. And I want to put something out there here with this. With set pieces, we seem to concede a lot of goals often this season. Are we missing Paul Gerrard a bit in there? Is Dave Timmins doing as good a job? I mean, look, you don't want to pick on individuals too much, but a question does have to be asked there. And I've seen people asking questions about Skelton and about Zimmerman, but when do you ask a question about your goalkeeping coach who, the goalkeepers have arguably not been as good this season, and also the set pieces simply haven't been as good at both ends, really.
Yeah, I mean, we don't personally see what goes on in training.
No, we don't.
But yeah, the results seem to be there for all to see of the change in goalkeeping coach. But I mean, Dave Timmins is a very highly regarded coach. But yeah, it just seems to almost be a bit of a perfect storm of calamity, really, with set pieces and
yeah.
I mean, the issue for me all along has been we need to score the first goal. I know we did it at Barnsley. I know we still lost, but conceding that first goal constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, and often I think that stems from our weakness up front, is that teams can put more players forward because we haven't been much of a threat in their area. I don't necessarily think the issues lie with our sort of, especially our new goalkeeper. I don't think the issues lie with the defence and the goalkeeper. I think it's a little bit deeper than that.
I think the pressure's invited a bit too much on the defence. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We're not being as successful as winning the ball back, which I think, we'll talk about Tuesday night shortly, but we were much better at doing that at Barnsley. That's where we actually started to see a bit more of what we saw last season for that. In this one, we got a little bit overrun in midfield a few too many times. I mean, the third goal's a perfect example of this. They got it away quickly, got up the pitch, and Rodriguez, it's a lovely bit turn inside it. At this point, Ellis was exposed by the fact that he had McCalmont in front of him, which that'll probably be the next point we'll go on to. But it was just a great finish around the defender, to be fair. He used the defender as a shield, and Lewis just can't see it. It's a really, really good bit of play. Frustratingly, at that point, we actually started to play a bit. Now, at half-time, Simon made a change in this one. So he pushes Mellish into midfield. But he doesn't have Gibson in midfield already. So he has to stick McCalmont on the right wing, really. It didn't work, did it? He looked like a lost player there, and he wasn't having the great... I think some people are a little bit harsh on me. He wasn't having the greatest game in midfield anyway. To then stick him on the right wing, he just didn't seem to know where he needed to be. He was drifting in to be in the centre again, which left Ellis massively exposed at times. And I think Ellis actually had a good game. There's not much more he could have done. His one-on-one defending is fantastic, by the way. Like Tuesday night especially, he was brilliant doing that. But do you think maybe Simo, in terms of his subs and changes at the moment, he needs to be a bit bolder in terms of making half-time subs and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, we noticed, I think it was before the Oxford game, certainly before the Barnsley game, that our bench recently has been a lot stronger than it's been all season, thanks to the new recruits we've been bringing in. But yeah, McCalmont is weird because obviously we're going to touch on the Barnsley game shortly, but McCalmont, for me, didn't play very well against Oxford, and he scored a goal. And Butterworth, I thought, did play well against Barnsley, but he just didn't score, and he missed a couple of sitters, to be honest. So it's a funny old game, isn't it? But sometimes if you start Gibson over McCalmont, you've just got that option to change formation without having to make a sub to do it.
I kind of feel like I keep saying it, I feel like we're really missing that. We're missing that little edge that we had from being able to do that mid-game and catch people out. So,
and as well, something that we were talking about the other day, sometimes bringing Gibson on with 15, 20 minutes left, it's not enough. He needs maybe to be brought on with 30 minutes left so we can kind of grow into the game and get a couple of touches. And, sometimes we bring Gibson on too late and he can't really make an impact when we bring him on.
Yeah, no, I think we sort of touched on that when we were driving back from the game on through the blizzard on the M62 on Tuesday night. You're right. I think for Gibson, he needs to be coming on earlier. And with this one, he came on with half an hour to go. And actually, I thought he had a real positive impact when he came on. And I think there was apparently Oxford fans after the game saying like he was a really good player and they wouldn't mind him playing for them. And I know he's hit and miss for us at times, but I think forget the mistakes he makes and forget the fact that maybe defensively he's not going to be as strong. You miss so much in attack without him in the team. And McCalmont's just not as good on the ball as him. McCalmont's a really busy, good pressing midfielder, but he won't offer you the same level of quality on the ball or creativity, and that's what we're really lacking at times. And
if you had a hybrid of the two, you'd have a Premier League player, to be honest with you, or a Championship at the very
least. You'd have a top end Championship player, definitely. He would absolutely make a difference. So it's it was frustrating because, like I said, once he'd come on, it made a big difference to us. I thought we looked much more threatening. He was getting the ball in good areas down the wing. But yeah, as it was, it just didn't quite work out. I thought, Garner looked quite lively when he came on as well. And Charters, to be fair, Charters used the ball really well. Once again, when he came on, he was a big threat. But yeah, for me, the thing that stood out from the game for me was just how good Moore was at centre-back for them. I thought he was one of the best players I've seen this season, the number 5. For a big lad, so good and comfortable on the ball, bringing out defence. Obviously lost his man to set up the first goal. Harris up front was pretty decent, but not easy goals, but we didn't challenge him as much in terms of what he had to do for the goals. So yeah, it was kind of a bit frustrating at times, but it's one of those ones afterwards you sort of looked at it and there was quite a lot of reaction after the game. There was a bit of Simo out talk and things like that from a handful of people, but this is the point we actually talked about, didn't we, when we did our original attempt at recording a review of the Oxford game. I think people need to calm down a little bit with that. I really do. I think there needs to be a little bit of a reality check. And I know some people don't like hearing this and say, it's not ambitious and stuff like that. It's not about that. It's about being realistic and doing it the best way possible for the future. And for me, we need to stick by Simmer and we need to give him time to build something here, because it's the first time he's going to have actually a decent budget to spend and be able to build something. And it's not going to change overnight in January. Bringing those players in, they're going to take time to settle. You hope it'll drag you away from trouble, but there's no guarantee that it will in the slightest. So
exactly.
So the key for me is stick by him, because, look, your alternative is you get rid of him, right? And then who are you bringing in? You're bringing in someone to firefight and potentially try and keep you in the league. You might need a very much a specialist to do that. There's no point in bringing a young, inexperienced manager in to do that, is there, at the end of the day, right? Then what happens if you just about stay up, or you're stuck with someone you probably don't really want as manager, and chances are you've had to give them an 18-month deal because they're not going to come for a 6-month deal, anyone who's any good. And then you're like, oh, well, they want to completely rebuild the squad again when Simo's already signed 3 or 4 players in January. This sounds terrible, but we might have to accept we might well go down this season. But in fact, let's leave that for now. Actually, we'll leave that as a talking point after the Barnsley review a bit. But yeah, in terms of the Oxford game, we won't go much more into it. We'll just say it just felt really flat afterwards, and there was a bit of a feeling of this isn't looking great, is it? But another good crowd, 7,800, 600 Oxford fans, fair play to them, coming up at this time in January. And we got to talk to a lovely Scottish man on the train back, didn't we? So if anyone wants to know the story about that, come and ask me at the next game, because he was off his box, that fella, to say the least. He was balmy. Let's move on then, Mike.
Yeah.
Another defeat. Barnsley won. Sorry, God, I didn't say Barnsley won, Carlisle 2 there, in my dreams. Barnsley 2, Carlisle United 1. This was the sucker punch to end all sucker punches, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if you don't put away your chances, you don't deserve to win. And it sounds harsh, some of the chances that we created were some of the best chances we created all season, to be honest with you. And how we didn't put them in, certainly, because there was one on the YouTube highlights which shows Butterworth when I think the keeper misplaced a pass and he just shot wide. But there's one that wasn't on the YouTube highlights, which was like a 1-on-1 where he had the goal gaping and he fluffed that as well. And we could have easily been 3-0 up 20 minutes in.
Yeah,
we just weren't.
Yeah. So team news before this one, we got some murmurs on the car over, didn't we, that Huntington was going to be starting. We're like, oh wow, because Simo didn't sound overly like he wanted to do that after the Oxford game, but it might just be him bluffing basically to not give away the fact that was in his mind. He came in, and Jack Armour came in for Jack Robinson. Was a little bit surprised. We're like, didn't really see that one coming. And Finn Back being back on the bench was a big positive, along with Sean Green coming onto the bench for the first time. It was no Ryan Edmondson either, which was a little bit of a shock, but obviously we found out now why. Pretty obvious. What did you think when you heard that news? I have to admit, I was pleased because I felt like it was time we needed a bit of experience there at the back.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I was a little bit apprehensive with Huntington because last season there was quite a few times where his lack of pace would get caught out. And what we've seen this season, if a little lack of pace or a little lack of concentration and you get caught out, you concede a goal every single time. And last season in League Two, we were quite fortunate in that we weren't necessarily conceding goals every time. But one thing I noticed on Tuesday is just how good Lewis is at like getting overhit through balls.
Yeah.
So if the opposition play in them through balls in behind, Huntington's lack of pace maybe can't pick up on, Lewis will be there, which is really, really good. And yeah, on the whole, I thought Huntington had a really good game, and I think Lavelle was a bit hit and miss. I think
he was all right, to be honest. I didn't think he did a huge amount wrong, and I think I've seen a little bit of criticism of him for their first goal, but when you look it back from the pitch side angle, they have it on the Barnsley YouTube. It's a hell of a finish. He put it in the one place Harry Lewis couldn't get to it, didn't he? So.
No, it was a good finish, yeah. But I think certainly, if Hunts is ready to start on Saturday, he should certainly be starting in that middle of the back three on Saturday as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's talk about the chances for this one, because oh my word, right. So literally 1 minute in, and it literally was just before the minute mark, wasn't it? Ball over the top. And I have to say, Barnsley, one of the worst defensive sides I've seen this season. They were all over the shop. The keeper's kicking was appalling. The big lad, Shepherd at centre-back, I saw some of their fans tearing into him before the game even, and you could see why, because his distribution was awful, and he was getting robbed all the time. And on this occasion, just a pump ball forward, and Butterworth's in behind the defender, through one goal, and we were like, obviously we're in the stand opposite behind that goal, and we're looking thinking, slot it, just slot it low beyond him, because he won't be able to get down quickly enough to it. And he put it, and look, it's a great save, like a great one-handed save, but he's put it at a height where the keeper can save it, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Just so disappointing, and because you go into a game like Barnsley away and you think we're not going to get many opportunities like that. And we were wrong.
Turns out we would, wouldn't we? And I think pretty much everyone around us was saying, why is he not just slotted it low enough? I think Simo said the same thing, didn't he? Like, you've just got to slot it past him from there. Really, you really, really do.
To be honest, I'd forgive him if he tried to round the keeper.
And the keeper made a save or something.
Yeah, because if you're trying to round the keeper, you're trying to sort of get a penalty and get the keeper sent off. Fair enough.
Absolutely.
But what he did was, it was just poor.
Yeah, it wasn't great. And well, I think poor's maybe a little harsh, but he's got to do better there. That's the key thing, isn't it? He should at the very least try. No, you did hit the target, to be fair, so it's pretty harsh to say that. But yeah, he's got to score, basically. The second chance, not long after that, I mean, my word, what their defence was doing here. A square ball across the box, and Butterworth, his pressing was fantastic in this game. I've got to give him a huge amount of credit for that. And he just nips in, gets the ball. Well, he sort of runs onto the ball, doesn't he? And he hits it first time, and he just drags it. I think it's one of these ones he thought that the keeper was a bit further across, or thought the keeper would save it if he did that. He tried so hard to put it right in the corner. And actually, he had a chance to either slot it just inside the post, or probably put it in the other one. Send it, the keeper would have dived that way anyway, and pretty much dived out of the way of it and put it in the back of the net. And at that point, you thought, "Oh God, it's not going to be his night, is it at all?" And then I can't. Did Armstrong's goal come before Butterworth's third chance? I think it was before, wasn't it? It's 6 minutes in.
Yeah, I think it was before.
So this time it was the keeper that messed up with the clearance. And it's a really clever one, actually, when you look back at it now. I watch this back. So he's trying to play it out to one of his defenders. Armstrong just takes a step just before he plays the pass, if you watch it. He wasn't right in the line. He takes a step, he takes a gamble, gets the ball, and tell you what, for a finish from 30 yards, and we were right behind the goal, weren't we? The angle he had was non-existent almost, wasn't it? There wasn't much space to fit it in off the post, and everyone in the way is going balmy, thinking, yes, one, our big money signing's got his first goal, couple of 3 games in, that's great. And 2, we're just like, we deserved it, didn't we, at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the feeling in the away end, because we haven't gone 1-0 up very often this season.
No.
So it was a great position to be in, and it was just disappointing what followed.
Yeah, absolutely. So then frustratingly, what followed not long after that was another chance to potentially make it 2-0, where Good little bit of play down the right with Harrison Neal playing in Jack Ellis, and Jack Ellis does the right thing, picks out Butterworth about 10 yards out, and Butterworth does well to adjust and get a header towards goal, and he just crashes back off the post, and no one's there to pick up the pieces, and you think, oh, Danny, 12 minutes in, and you could have had a hat-trick. And I'm sure he was thinking, my luck is not in tonight, not in the slightest. They didn't really have many chances the first half, Barnsley, from memory, did they? I don't think. I think Lewis was pretty solid with most of his goalkeeping. Like you said, he swept up really well.
Yeah, we frustrated them quite a bit. They were playing it side to side, and we were just letting them, and a few of their players were getting quite frustrated and just hitting it from distance. And
their wing-backs were struggling, all the full-backs and wingers were struggling because both Ellis and Armour were excellent one-on-one. Like, they made some really, really solid. They didn't get in very often. Exactly what you want to see. They made a couple of changes at halftime, didn't they? They brought Nicky Cadden on and I think O'Keefe at right back as well. They're two very good players. But even then, they didn't really do much from the wing backs, did they? Those two, we still look pretty solid in those areas. I think Armour's crossing was a little bit off. He's just become a little bit slow on putting the cross in. He's taking a little. It's a problem. It's not just him, to be fair, in the team. It's a problem with the team generally. They think they've got more time than they do. They're not quick enough. I think Charters is one of the few, and Mellish, like I keep saying, who are a little bit quicker with the ball and get it moving a bit quicker. Sorry. So yeah, the into the second half, and nearly had another chance for Armstrong, didn't we? With a ball over the top where the defenders just switched off and Armstrong nipped in. He pokes it over the keeper. He couldn't have done any more than he did, really. He got as much as he could on it, and it went wide of the post. Barnsley picked up a little bit, and then there was Barnsley's equaliser. I know there's been a bit of criticism of Lavelle not being tight enough to Cole, but I think it was a difficult one. I think Cole actually did a really good job of peeling off him. And like I said, from that angle, you'd think, okay, most of the time your keeper's going to have it covered, but he hit it so well into such a perfect place. Lewis didn't have a chance. If I was going to have one criticism of it, then for me, Moxon's got to bring down the number 2, Williams. He's got to. Like he goes behind him and he does that little thing where they almost like try to accidentally clip and make it look as if they haven't clipped them when you run behind them. For me, just bring the lad down. Unfortunately, the lad's away.
Hindsight's 20/20, isn't it? And if Moxon had picked up a stupid booking there, we might have conceded a goal later on and would say, oh, if Moxon hadn't got that stupid booking, he could have closed him down.
Yeah, but then you accept that, like, when he's in that much space heading towards goal, and we know they're a good team, you just take the booking at that point for me. And yeah, it's a little bit disappointing that happened. Game sort of carried on, and it was pretty equal. So I think we were still the better side for a lot of it. Lewis didn't have a huge amount to do. And then the winner, it's one of those ones, isn't it, where, as Simo rightly said on the radio, we had a couple of chances to clear it and we should have done. But never in a million years is that a penalty. I've watched it back and I just can't grasp how that was given as a penalty. There's no foul. He doesn't clip his legs or anything. There's no foul. He wins the ball. It's a ridiculous decision.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of Barnsley fans say it's soft as well. If that had been a Carlisle player go down, I'd be appealing for it.
Of course you would. It doesn't mean it's right.
No, not at all. But it's not as much of a stonewall penalty as some of the penalties that we've been denied earlier in the season. I think some of them were much more obvious. And Simo was absolutely furious with the referee, and I understand that. And it wasn't just that decision. There was loads of really weird, like, throw-ins and little free kicks like throughout the game. And I think Simo said that 5 minutes in, he said to the fourth official, "Look, this ref's going to cost us," because I don't think there was anything really malicious behind it, but it was whatever the Barnsley fans shouted for. He just kind of gave as a bit of a homer in that sense. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't be blaming the ref. We had the chances.
We've got to take the chances. But what, for me, we've got to do, we've got to take the positives from the game as much as we can. There was a lot of positives taken. We have to accept they're a very good side. Barnsley, what was that? 1 defeat in 17 now for them. You know, you're not a bad side if you're doing that, are you? At the end of the day, you don't do that by accident. So we've got to take a bit of the rough with the smooth and think, right, the key for me is now we need to put two good performances together in a row. Because we haven't done that all season. That's where it's really been a struggle, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And the where the tunnel is at Barnsley, for those who don't know, so it's basically right in front of the away end, like in the corner. And the players have all got a very good reception off, to be fair. You know, there's been some defeats we've had recently where players have been booed off, rightly or wrongly. But on the whole, I think the fans, all 800 odd of us, which is an incredible effort for a Tuesday night. The players were getting applauded off, and I think we could all appreciate the effort that was put in. And we don't just, I wouldn't call myself a happy clapper. I don't, clap the team off every week if they've been, if they've lost, if they haven't been very good, but they deserved recognition for the effort that they put in.
The work rate was fantastic from every player, wasn't it? It really was. Right, tell you what we'll do then. We'll talk about those fans. I know a great effort, another 800 plus. I mean, travelling on a Tuesday night in that weather, remarkable effort, remarkable. So one of the fans who was down there was a long-time contributor. He hasn't been on for a while, though, our good friend Regan. So Regan has sent us in a 6-second review for the game.
I was really impressed, definitely with the first half yesterday. If Butterworth takes any of his free chances, the game's put to bed in the first half. They weren't impressive at all, and I think if they're going in at half-time by 2 or more goals down, then it's 3 points, and it would have been a vital 3 points, but that's why we're at the bottom end of this table. We've not been taking our chances, and they've had one shot and scored, and that's the quality that they've got with Devante Cole. It's definitely not a penalty, but again, it's another one where we've got an excuse where we can blame the official like we could on Saturday, but it's just simply that we weren't good enough. It does give us a bit of optimism. If we can play like that on Saturday, we'll definitely get 3 points. But it's been a case a number of times this season where we've performed well and we've not followed it up the following game, so we need to get that going. I think with the new lads, Neil, Lewis in goal and Armstrong up front, it gives us a good base. It's something that we've definitely missed, and I was really impressed with Hunt at the back. I'd probably stick with that team, probably put back in just to give us a bit more on that right-hand side. Maybe Gibson in for McCalmont, and we should be getting 3 points on Saturday. So on to Cheltenham, up the Blues.
Well, he's raised a good point there about the new boys there, Mike. So let's talk about them. We'll start off with the goal scorer, Luke Armstrong, who was the WhoScored.com man of the match for this game. Both teams, comfortably as well. 8.1 he got for his rating. Poor Butterworth, he got 6. Which, bear in mind, when he had so many chances and his pressing was so good, it's because he's missed them, basically. That's the reason why. But Harrison Neal and Huntington were the next two best for us at 7. And Barnsley, to be fair, overall score-wise, pretty equal. 6.55 average, and we were 6.52. So Armstrong, I have to say, hugely impressed with him. Obviously, we saw him at the weekend. It was a tough game that we didn't really get into it that much. This one, it was perfect, an away game. I'm so impressed with the effort he puts in off the ball and his running, and he's so intelligent with getting to the right areas and being able to win the ball back and hold it up. I genuinely think we've got an absolute gem in a signing of him, and he's a player who can become a big player over the next few years for us.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I was really impressed with off the ball is he kind of blocks off passing lanes for. So if the centre-back's got the ball, they can't sort of play it to the full-back or to the sort of defensive midfielder. He just kind of sits in that little pocket. He doesn't necessarily close them down. He just sort of sits in a pocket that says, you can't pass to these two players. And then, if someone else, a Butterworth, is closing the defender down on the ball, he kind of has to make a decision, and he doesn't have as many options as he'd like. So, that was really good to see. His hold-up play was very good. I think in terms of sort of man of the match for WhoScored.com, it would be based off the fact he scored a goal. I wouldn't know what the expected goals was for his goal, but I wouldn't imagine it'd be very high because it was quite far out and he had to take it quite quickly. But also based on the fact that he wins so many of his aerial duels, that'd be why he won that as well. And it's just really good to see. And we look a hell of a much better team with him in it than without him.
Yeah, absolutely. He actually got booked as well. We should say so. That does affect your score as well. So to get 8.1 with a booking as well, a really really good effort from him. What you mentioned about blocking those passing lanes as well, that's how he got his goal. At the end of the day, he blocked that pass line for the keeper. The keeper didn't have anywhere to play it, and he's nipped in and scored the goal. So, it's great to see. Harrison Neal, thoughts on him? I think he looks a terrific signing. I really do. I think once he gets up to speed, bear in mind he's not playing much this season, I think he'll be great. Look, there are times when he's running and it looks like he's towing a caravan. I don't think he's that slow, but it's just that. I think it's his running style that makes it look like that. He's very hunchback almost because he's a big lad. You don't realise how big he is because he is a bit not hunched, but he's always constantly on the move, isn't he? He's always wanting to move, and he put some crunching tackles in this game, didn't he?
Yeah, he really did. But not only that, but he had the quality in the passing to go with it, which, some tough tackling midfielders at this level, they don't have the quality on the ball.
Yeah.
And he seems to have them both. And, it's just going to be crazy when Callum Guy comes back from injury. I think he's going to struggle to get back in the team.
To be honest, I think there's a possibility you could play them both in the same team.
Yeah.
Neil could probably play a bit further forward. He was playing further forward generally in both the games, wasn't he? And he showed that he's quite good at the press on the defenders, isn't he? So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's still a while off before that obviously comes about. We sort of talked about Harry Lewis already, haven't we? I think we're both very impressed with his handling, particularly, he holds on to shots and he's kicking. There's a slight concern for me on set pieces. Look, Thomas Foley's 6'9", of course, he's going to be a lot stronger on claiming set pieces, but maybe a slight concern there. Maybe it'll come when he gets to know his teammates a bit better. So, yeah, there you go with that one. Talk about a couple more performances in the team. Butterworth again, we've got to say, look, it's so frustrating because you can see the quality there. His pressing in this game was brilliant. He won the ball back so many times off the pitch, and you could not knock his work rate. He's just got to show a bit more composure when he's got those chances, and he's still got this habit of going down the blind alley sometimes, and you've got to release the ball a little bit quicker, don't you? And I kind of hope he gets a goal in one of these starts just to give him a lift as much as anything. Yeah,
I think if he'd have scored that first chance, he would have scored the other two. I think, he just needed that lift. And I think, to be honest, I wouldn't dispute him starting alongside Armstrong on Saturday. There seemed to be a little bit of an understanding there between them, considering they haven't played together a lot. But it was sort of a classic big man, little man strike pairing, really, wasn't it? And there have been questions earlier, sort of, can we carry a player like Butterworth? But he seemed to be putting in the hard yards off the ball that you don't have to sort of carry him per se.
For me, it's not so much on the work rate side of it. It's more that he really needs to work on his decision making with the final ball and what he does with that in releasing the ball. That's the thing he really needs to work on. That's where I've got concerns. But I think he'll start up front again at the weekend, probably, especially if Coyote's still not fit, obviously, as we understand he's not going to be involved. So there you go. One more player I want to mention before I play Nick Brown's 6-second review. Alfie McCallum, we sort of discussed this. He's not really quite got up to speed in League One with us yet, has he? I know he's played at this level before from Morecambe, so it's not like he's not used to it. But it just feels at the moment like he's struggling to find his place in the team a little bit. And what I would say is we created a lot of chances in this game because of his pressing. His pressing was excellent. He won. It was hard to tell sometimes if it was him or Butterworth because from a distance, one's got number 10, one's got number 11, and they're a very similar height. It's only when you turn around and you see that scraggy haircut and beard that Butterworth's got, you're like, oh, right, that's not Alfie. It's hard to tell sometimes, but they were both excellent in terms of their pressing, and it's just the final decision-making comes. I mean, there's one point where it was one of those ones where you kind of wish it was Moxon that won the ball back because he won the ball back and the keeper was well off his line about 30 yards out, and he could have lobbed the keeper if he just got his head up, or he had a go at the very least, and I think he just sort of passed it in the end. So... yeah, I don't know. What's your thoughts on him in the team? I mean, I get why Simmons put him there because of the work rate and the pressing, but would you maybe rather see Gibbo in there right now?
Yeah, I mean, for me, his work rate and pressing is very good, but on the ball, I don't think he's of League One quality, unfortunately. It might sound harsh, but I think his pressing was very good, and, we forced the Barnsley defence into quite a few mistakes, but it just lacks that little bit of quality, and it's so frustrating. And certainly how much he was pressing, for me, the last 30 minutes, he didn't really do a lot because I think he was knackered. I think he'd ran himself into the ground, and I can't really blame him for that, to be honest. I think he should have been subbed off, to be honest, but it didn't happen, and he's not the most effective in the final third when he's got fresh legs, and he was just clearly worn out and needed taken off for me.
Yeah, definitely. Right, time to do one more 6-second review. It's actually longer than 6 seconds, about 2 minutes long, but here's what Nick Brown had to say about the game on Tuesday night.
How the hell did we lose that game of football? It's so frustrating. Possibly the hardest result to take for me this season so far. Despite that, it was a good game of football, and we did play well. I thought we were fantastic in the opening 20 minutes. They could not handle that high press we put them under. They were just panicking, kicking it anywhere. Then number 6 didn't know which way was up, which way was down. He was shocking. If those 3 or 4 big chances fall at Armstrong instead of Dan Butterworth, then he's tucking 2 of them away at least. We've got 3 points in our back pocket and we're away back to Cumbria and everyone's happy. But they didn't. They fell to Butterworth, and you can't excuse that finishing. You're a professional footballer, man. Just score. The closer it gets to half-time at 1-0, you worry that they'll have enough to change the game. And they did make some changes, and it did change the game. They grew into it. They weren't great. We matched them. We played well enough. Don't think we really created an awful lot in the second half. But we should have stopped their goals. Moxon absolutely has to bring their lad down. Take the yellow card. Was so naive. Any other team in the league this season, I think, would just take him clean out. Just have the yellow card. Then there's no goal. There's no issue. It's a good ball into Cole and it's a good finish. I don't think Lewis can do better with it. And then you move on into their second goal. Was it a penalty? Wasn't it? I don't know. It was a contentious one. I don't think the ref gives that. If it's at the other end, that's for sure. And Lewis can't do anything about it. The lad tucks it away well. And what can you say? It's just so frustrating, but never mind. There was a lot of positives. I thought Huntington was class. He really holds that defence together. He looks so much more solid with him there. And I think Mellish and Lavelle play with a lot more confidence with him in there. So hopefully he can stay fit. And that'll give us a springboard to hopefully put in some better defensive performances. Neil looks a real player. I mean, he loves a tackle. And I think he'll grow into that position. He'll make that position his own. And I think he'll be an important player for us, hopefully, for the rest of the season. And what a difference having a proper striker up front in Armstrong. Took his goal really well, and I thought he had a great performance. So, hopefully, the team can take them positives into Saturday. It's there to be won. Hopefully, we can get a result and up the Blues.
I don't think we can argue much with what Nick said there. He's covered pretty much a lot of the stuff that we said, hasn't he? And yeah, just like I said, we've just got to take the positive in Saturday, which brings us on quite nicely. We'll take a short break now, and then we'll be back to look ahead to the Cheltenham game.
Hi, it's Tom Piatek II, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
There's Tom back there again. He was on the last episode as well, wasn't he? A bit more of him that time, though. If you haven't had a chance to listen, you can go back and listen to our special episode that came out at the start of the week, which was a chat with Tom Piatek II and Alice Piatek as well about the takeover and what's coming up for the club and stuff like that. Thank you for the brilliant feedback we've had so far. And I have to say, the amount of listens we've had in there, I'm going to have a quick look and just check. I'm not going to tell you exactly how many, but I think it's up there as one of our best listened to episodes so far, which is incredible, really, considering it only came out at the start of the week. Let me just have a quick look. Yeah, in terms of listener numbers, yeah, it's right up there. It's one of the highest we've had for a long time. So brilliant stuff. Thank you so much for all the positive feedback. And like I said, hopefully we'll get the big man, Tom. It's not Tom T, just Tom Piatek as well, and Patty maybe as well. And hopefully we'll get Jenna and Nick as well at some point in the near future. It'd be great to get them all on. And we'll try and get them on a bit more often in the future too. So really good to see. Right, Mike, we've got a very quick question from Dan for this week. So let's have Dan's quiz question.
Now, as some of you are probably aware, one of my favourite competitions is currently taking place, and that is the African Cup of Nations. So this week's question is, there are 13 players who are deemed African under FIFA rules who have played for Carlisle United. Can you name them?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm thinking, with that one, I think we might even leave the answers to the next episode, I think we might let people sweat in it. What do you reckon, Mike?
No, I reckon we can do it in this one. We'll cram it in at the end, yeah.
We'll cram it in the end, okay. Well, we'll look at it. We're going to do a very brief preview of the Cheltenham game because I know you need to get away soonish. Yeah. Cheltenham Town, obviously, it's only barely a month since we last played them even. In fact, less than a month since we last played them. And we didn't do ourselves any justice at all in that game at Brunton Park. I think it's very fair to say it was a pretty dreadful performance. No disagreement from anyone, that one. Surely it's going to be better in this game. Right. In terms of the prediction league, it's exactly the same. I don't think any of us predicted McCalmont to score, did we?
No.
And we didn't do any, obviously for the midweek. I think we probably all would have got a point against Barnsley because I think we all would have gone with Luke Armstrong, but we didn't. So there you go. Right. Dan's question again, obviously, that was in terms of was it 13 players that are technically African? So that includes players who might have been born, let's say, in France, but qualified for playing for an African country. So first up, starting there. Let's get it started. Vincent Pericard's one of them.
Cameroon. Yeah.
So we've got Vincent Pericard.
Francois Zoko, Ivory Coast.
Francois Zoko for Ivory Coast. Yep, that's 2. Prince Brabin was it Ghana? No, he wasn't. Was he Ghana?
I think he was Ghana. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was. Anyway, Prince Brabin definitely was an African country, I'm sure.
Mo
Sagaf, yep. Obviously, he's playing for Tanzania at the current tournament. Fair play. Who was the one I was just saying there? Marco Gabassin. He was Congo, wasn't he, I think, if I remember rightly?
I think so.
No, maybe it was another team that gave a G. Anyway, so Marco Gabassin. Oh, there was another one I was about to say there. And hang on. Can you think of any of us?
I'm struggling now. Calvin Atuo, I think, and Tom Tyler were both eligible for Nigeria. Yeah,
I think Tom Tyler might be a stretch because I think Atuo definitely, I'm sure, was born there, wasn't he?
Tyler was eligible through his dad or something.
I think yes. I don't. Yeah, I wonder if it. Well, let's say Tyler anyway. The other one I was thinking of, it's gone out my head again. Oh, for God's sake, Rafanade. There's 8. He was Ivory Coast, wasn't he, as well? Was he Ivory Coast or was he?
I think he was Ivory Coast.
Yeah. There's going to be others I've forgotten. Yeah. We've got 8. I think as many as we're going to get is 8. So let's have Dan's answer. If anyone's got more than 8, then you're doing really well, especially in the time frame we've given you. So here's the answer to Dan's question.
They are Derek Asamoah, Ghana. Prince Balban, Ghana. Kelvin Ituhu, Nigeria. Dean Furman, South Africa. Marco Antoine Gabassin, Central African Republic. Bastien Heri, Madagascar. Raphael Nade, Ivory Coast. Ron Oosthuizen, South Africa. Jean-Claude Pagal, Cameroon. Mo Sagaf, Tanzania. Kevin Wright, Sierra Leone. Ofrande Zanzala, Congo. And Francois Zoko, Ivory Coast.
So he's missed Vincent Pericard. Is he counting because he played for France under 21s? He's not counting him, is he saying? I'm guessing.
Maybe.
Oh, there you go. Well, there you go. Good question there from Dan. We're not going to do the ex-Blues because we haven't had time to put them properly together. And you're in a hurry, Mike, because you're off to go and play football yourself, aren't you? So, So, yeah, cool. So that's it for this week. Thanks for joining me, Mike. Always appreciate it.
Cheers.
Hopefully some better things to come in the next few weeks. And, a couple more editions, I think we're not far off being an all right side, actually, to be fair. It might come a little bit too late, but let's not get downhearted. Let's be positive. The future looks really good. We all heard what was said from Tom and Alice on the interview we did with them, and Jeddah as well. She did one with the Radio Cumbria and confirmed that they've put a application into the council for the training ground already. So very exciting times. That's moved so quickly. It's incredible. But yeah, thanks once again to our sponsor, the London branch, as well, for their support. Always appreciated. We're going to be back next week with a review of the Cheltenham game and a look ahead to the Bolton game, which should be a belter. They're bringing 3,000 fans. So going to be a fantastic atmosphere. So hopefully get a really good home crowd as well. There should be at least a 5-figure crowd for that one, I reckon. Yeah. At the very least. It'd be great. Right. Not much else to say, Mike, is there, other than keep your heads up, guys, and up the Blues?
Up the Blues.